but they were very concrete. They were very clearly directed to this concern. And Mamdani, talking about that video and that listening tour, said something that everybody in politics, on the progressive side, the center-left side, the moderate side, and I would say the other side, ought to listen to. He said we should listen more and lecture less. And that totally went against the stereotype of liberals.
In terms of uniting the party, when you look at Zohran Mamdani's win, and it was such a decisive win over an establishment Democrat, albeit a very tainted candidate in Andrew Cuomo, then what lessons do you draw from that in terms of perhaps uniting the two sides on a national level when you look at the fact that this candidate, a progressive, is so I don't want to say like toxic to many members of the party?
I was transfixed by that race. I have a daughter in her 20s who lives in New York. And I really got through her the sense, early on, the sense of excitement that this candidacy was creating. And I truly believe he is a generational talent. And if you look around the commentary afterward, even people who didn't like him, even people who supported Cuomo, talked about what a talent this person is. And he presented warm and friendly. He was angry on your behalf, but it wasn't an angry radicalism. One of his, he was a master of the new media. And one of his most powerful videos was when he went into the areas of New York City that Trump had carried, including Latino areas where Trump had gained ground on the last election, and asked people why they voted for Trump. And it was almost uniformly the cost of living. And like any good politician, he decided to campaign on the issue the voters cared about. Now, he tailored his program was a left of center program, tailored to the cost of living, thus free buses, free childcare, freeze the rent. That freeze the rent was so associated with him that when he spoke to crowds, he'd start freeze and the crowd would shout back rent. Again, you can debate all these things, but they were very concrete. They were very clearly directed to this concern. And Mamdani, talking about that video and that listening tour, said something that everybody in politics, on the progressive side, the center-left side, the moderate side, and I would say the other side, ought to listen to. He said we should listen more and lecture less. And that totally went against the stereotype of liberals who are always lecturing people about how they want them to be and how they're supposed to behave and what they're supposed to think. And he ran this, so he ran as a democratic socialist, he ran as a progressive, but he ran as someone who was talking to the electorate where it was.
Hi, I'm Janice, and I am co-founder of Jews United for Democracy and Justice, as well as the America at a Crossroads weekly virtual town hall series. If you like this video, don't just watch. Head over to our website where you can subscribe for early access to new programs, see our upcoming schedules, and participate in our weekly live streams. You can also connect directly with our guests live on Zoom. Head over to JewsUnitedForDemocracy.org. Thanks for watching.
Also, New York has elected a Republican mayor not infrequently. So Bloomberg.
20 years. I mean, you had Giuliani win twice. And although he was a nominal Republican, he was on the ballot as a Republican, Mike Bloomberg. Right. I don't think the Republican candidate is strong, but Eric Adams is running for re-election, and Adams is going to go after Mamdani. But, the thing he will have going for him against Adams is the same thing he had going for him against Cuomo, which is a very unpopular opponent. When you looked at the polling in New York, one of the striking things is when Cuomo was way ahead, he was at 33% in February. Mamdani was at 1% at that point. In the end, in the first round of voting, which is what the polling was on, Cuomo got, if I remember right, 37%. So he gained 4 points in the whole campaign. And Cuomo's theory was, if I make it a Mamdani-me race, they'll vote against the radical because I'll be safe. I think that ended up having the opposite effect as was intended. which is it identified as Mandani the candidate to vote for if you wanted to beat Cuomo. And so it was a very curious inversion. But we can't underestimate how much opposition to Cuomo there was in the city. And I don't think people factored that in when they were predicting an easy victory for him.
Right. I mean, as I said, a very flawed candidate who's basically, thrown out of office. And but I'm wondering though if there isn't a larger lesson here for the rest of the party in that the Democrats aren't popular nationwide when you poll people. They don't like the Democrats about the same, maybe less than they like Trump. And for all of you, join us again next week with Max Boot in conversation with Warren Olney to talk about Russia's war on Ukraine, Trump, Putin, Zelensky, and the search for peace. And I will be back with you again shortly. Thanks, and have a great night.